right. We are so close. We are so close to the start of real football. So close. Not quite there yet, but we're right there, right on the goal line. We're going to nudge that thing over here any day now. For Dallas Cowboys Overtime here on StarTelegram.com, I am Fort Worth Star Telegram columnist Mac Engel, and I'm joined by my good friend, Mr. Clarence E. Hill Jr. Clarence, the Cowboys don't start real football yet. They're still stuck in fake football, but we have real football this week, starting with Texas high school football season, as well as a handful of college games. And before I get to anything else, probably the most important thing that I'm going to say here on Cowboys Overtime, this episode is sponsored by the great people at Window Nation. I want to thank them. They're going to ride with us here in the 2022 season. Window Nation, thank you so much. Clarence, let's talk Dallas Cowboys football. You were in California for what feels like no less than the last 84 months. Not that I'm jealous. And when you come home, it's no longer 110 degrees. You brought with us rain, cold weather, and a kick returner. The Dallas Cowboys have embraced Turpin Time. I know it's a good transition, wasn't it?
That was great.
The Dallas Cowboys have embraced Turpin Time, the former TCU kick and punt returner who was electric in his 2.5 seasons here in Fort Worth before he had serious legal troubles. He went on to eventually play for the USFL, where he was the MVP of that league in the spring. And now he's with the Cowboys, and Turpin Time is here. Clarence, are we looking at the second coming, at least as a returner, of prime time?
He's the most exciting return the Cowboys have had since prime time. And, the funny thing is, now everybody's taking credit. Everybody wants, you invented Turpin Time. Shannon Sharp called me out like, Clarence, give me credit. I had Turpin. Like, come on.
I know. I wrote that down as a topic we were going to talk about.
Man, come on, man. Stop it. You didn't invent Turpin. He's been Turpin Time. No. People from Monroe said it was Turpin Time High School. TCU called him Turpin Time. I think it started talking about a headline, Turpin Time. And for a mundane training camp, mundane preseason, he gave people something to get excited about, gave people something to feel good about. And, and it's funny because it's a feel-good story, but it is a story from he's matured, he's learned. I talked to LaDainian Tomlinson about the Turpin at TCU. He's always been quick, he's always been fast, he's always been talented. But he had some growing issues. He had some growing pains. He had some things off the field, things that got him kicked off at TCU, and he went to the football abyss. I mean, he went to 4 different fledgling leagues before finally getting a chance to play with the Cowboys, and he made the most of his opportunity.
Yeah, when he was here, he was under lock and key pretty good by Gary Patterson. And by meaning, Gary usually didn't let those kids talk very much. And if they did talk, they were just parroting whatever he told them to say. He was a shy kid around the media, but everything that I'd heard about him, Clarence said he was a nice kid, but he came from a pretty hard background in Monroe, Louisiana. And one of the biggest challenges that he faced as he transitioned to TCU, which is not always easy for some players, because it's a culture shock, was trying to remove himself from some of the bad influences that he grew up in Monroe. Didn't mean he was a bad kid, but there were elements to his background that were really challenging. And, he did what he did. He assaulted a girlfriend that was a part of a toxic relationship, and he did the time. And to be honest, anybody who watched him play when he was at TCU knew he had NFL caliber speed and moves. You just saw it. The fear is that he was really only about 5'7", and you and I both know 5'7" guys normally don't make it in the NFL. He's going to be a 25-year-old rookie. Clarence, we watch this guy. It is a great story. He's 5'7". How many touches a game do you think they can get out of this guy between punts, kicks, and then maybe a little bit in the offense?
Yeah, that's just it. Because again, when they signed him day one, he was going to be the return. There was no question about this. The reason why they took their time in signing him, they've been on him since the end of the USFL season. But they waited until after the start of training camp. They were trying to make sure this was the right situation for him, and he was ready for this opportunity. But he's going to be their primary returner, kicks and punts. But yes, they're going to try to get him involved in the offense, do some different things, some jet sweeps with him. Even if you know it's coming, don't mean you can stop it because of his speed. I mean, he's 5'7", 155 pounds, soaking wet. But as LaDainian Thompson told me, he's as quick as a mosquito, but he also plays like a big man. He doesn't play. He's fearless. He doesn't play like a little guy. He has an attitude of a big man. He will try to run you over. He'll try to run around you. He's aggressive. So they're going to try to do some things to get him the ball. But I mean, they're not going to overdo it. I mean, here's a guy who's pretty much played year round for the last 4 years. Okay, yep. He just came off the USFL season, ended in June. So he hasn't had any time off. So you also want to be smart with his body, and you want to keep that juice in his legs. You don't want to overdo him. But what he brings to the table as far as kick and punt returns, my God, that's a weapon for the Cowboys, and they plan on using it.
Yeah, and guys like that, if you make 1 or 2 plays a game, I'm talking field position. The idea that he's going to return 2 kicks, a punt and a kickoff, the way he did on Saturday night against the Chargers for a touchdown, the idea that he's going to do that very often is absurd. We saw Devin Hester do it a lot. Devin Hester was special when he was with Chicago. We saw Prime Time do it here in his limited time with the Cowboys, and certainly when he was in Atlanta and the 49ers. But in my mind, if Turpin can make a difference on 2 plays a game, because those aren't just small plays, those are big plays, then he's worth whatever money that they're going to pay him. Is 2 a realistic number for a guy like that, Clarence? It feels realistic to me.
You're talking about hitting yardage, field position. Obviously you're not. Even the greatest returners don't take one to the house every game or every other game. That's just not realistic. But from a field position standpoint, and certainly you understand that he put the NFL on notice. They're not going to give him many opportunities. They're going to kick away from him. They're going to do some things, kick the ball out of bounds. They're going to do all that stuff. But when he does get an opportunity, everybody's going to be standing on the edge of the seats and sideline, the press box, at the stands. Everybody's going to be waiting for something to happen, and certainly that puts fear in the defense. But yeah, those hitting yards, that field position, that matters for the offense.
I know you and Shannon Sharp, the former NFL tight end who now makes his living as a talking mouth across from that idiot Skip Bayless on the Fox show. Clarence, this is your platform. This is your time. Please tell us why Shannon Sharp should not take nor get credit for inventing Turpin Time.
Again, as we talked at the top of the show, Turpin Time predates him. And of course, it's an easy cliche. We all know it. It's real simple. I said it after the game, and everybody was tweeting. And certainly, I think, again, the Star Telegram had headline Turpin Time, when he was at TCU, and just following everything on Twitter, because Twitter is the go-to for information. According to people from Monroe, they were calling him Turpin Time in high school.
I believe that. I actually believe that. I believe that.
Yeah. So, it's so easy. And we know that when he gets his hands on the ball, Turpin Time's going to happen.
Yeah. And, just as some background on him, he was a 3-star recruit out of Monroe. He took TCU over Texas Tech. And there's a story about him that's kind of fun. In his first fall camp, the Star Telegram's Carlos Mendez asked Gary Patterson, who was obviously then the head coach, what names stick out? What names stick out? And Gary was in one of his moods. He didn't give any names. And then Carlos followed up a couple of days later. Give me a name. What names stand out? He says, I'll give you a name. He says, Turpin. We can't tackle him. Obviously, the NFL had a hard time tackling him on Saturday night. It should be a lot of fun to watch moving forward. All right. There is one fake game left in the Dallas Cowboys preseason, and that is on Friday night against the Seattle Seahawks, who do not have a quarterback. Why they traded Russell Wilson, I'll never know. Clarence, pretty much every roster spot is probably done, locked up, but there's some things that you mentioned in your work in the Star Telegram that I certainly want to get you to shed some light on. What questions, there's one I'm hoping you hit on, what questions remain do you have about the Cowboys before they start the regular season here in a couple of weeks?
Well, there are a couple of questions, a couple of concerns. They still have no kicker. They have no kicker, and that's a big issue for a team that, in a league where games come down to one possession late in the game, late in half. You need to have a kicker you can count on. Liam Haralu and Brett Meyer are the guys who are kicking right now, but they could, again, at final cuts, get another kicker from another team, depending on who gets cut. I mean, these guys are competing against each other, but as well as kickers from other teams. The receiver position.
That's the one.
That's not set.
No, and it's not good. CeeDee Lamb's good, but the other ones, I'm not buying.
I mean, I call it CD and the maybes, the baby maybes, and right now it's the baby maybes. Because Michael Gallup's not going to be back at the start of the season. Noah Brown's hurt. It's been nothing but the young guys, rookies, and unproven guys. And the guy they've been counting on, Jalen Tolbert, third-round pick, has not been good.
You mentioned that on Saturday night. Clarence mentioned specifically, you wrote about it specifically. What did you see? I thought them counting on a guy like Jalen Tolbert was absurd anyways, not because he was a third-round pick, but because he had thrived against lower-level college competition. Michael Gallup played in the WAC. Maybe it was the Mountain West. I guess it was the Mountain West when he was at Colorado State. He's a third-round pick, and he took some time to develop. Now, he showed something progressively as a rookie. Has Jalen Tolbert showed you anything so far?
I mean, no, not really. I mean, he has the body. He has a nice attitude, but he's dropped passes. Last, Saturday night, he had a touchdown, but he didn't get both feet in bounds. It's some growing pains. He has some growing pains. And I think when I talked to Mike McCarthy about him, he said they put too much on him. Playing all different positions, they're going to just put him in one spot and let the game come to him. But the problem is the Cowboys have been targeting him as a guy who was going to be an immediate impact player from day one, especially with Michael Gallup not being ready. And then you lose James Washington. One of those rookies has to play. And it was Jalen Tolbert they were eyeing, to be the guy. The funny thing is the most impressive rookie in camp has been an undrafted free agent named Dennis Houston. He's the one who's caught everybody's eye and running with the starters a lot in training camp, but he's an undrafted free agent from Western Illinois. I see the Cowboys signing or trading for a receiver at the final cut.
What would they have to give up, a 5 or a 6?
Well, I think it's not going to be, the second coming of Randy Moss. So it'll probably be a late round pick, or they may trade, one of the players. I mean, I think the Cowboys are deep on the defensive line. There's a good chance that Tristan Hill, I don't think they're going to re-sign him next year. He could be traded. He's having a good camp. He had a sack and a forced fumble the other night, So, they have some assets they can potentially move in a trade, but keep an eye on that. And then the other big question for this team is the offensive line. I think that Tyler Smith is going to be moved into the starter at left guard, but the backup tackle position, the Cowboys do not have an insurance policy for Tyron Smith.
Is there any chance, Clarence? Is there any chance their backup for Tyron Smith is the rookie from North Crowley?
Well, and then you're asking, to make two moves. I mean, it could be that may be what the Cowboys have to do, but you're really putting a lot on the rookie, asking him to play two positions, asking him to move two positions, and he's still trying to learn how to play guard, and he still has some technical issues there that needs to get down. He's not technically proficient at guard, and now you're going to, potentially ask him to play two different positions. That's a lot to ask.
One last question I want to ask you before we go to break. You mentioned Tristan Hill. He was a former high pick and a guy who was a preferred pet favorite of former Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator Rod Marinelli. Yeah, he didn't do much as a rookie. Then in his second season, he showed you a little something at defensive tackle. Then he got hurt, and he's battled injury. But it looks like when he's played, he looks like he legitimately has something. Is it stupid for us to cross our fingers and think maybe this guy might work out with the Cowboys ultimately, or do you think ultimately his future is going to be elsewhere?
Oh, I think his future is elsewhere just because of what they have in front of him. And they like Osa Odigizua and Neville Gallimore and Chauncey Golston, and they have a nice rotation there. They got Quentin Bohanna and John Ridgway, and they got some guys that can start. I mean, they like their pass rush. They like to move their ends inside to pass rush. So you're going to see DeMarcus Lawrence playing tackle on pass rushing situations. So and Micah and rush from the end position and stuff like that. So they got some flexibility. I mean, it's not a bad thing if they see value in being able to trade him. But he's had a good camp, and so his career is not over. He's certainly made up for that slow start to his career, and certainly overcome some of the immaturity issues he had early on. So whether he's here or somewhere else, it looks like Tristan Hill is going to have an NFL career.
All right, stay with us. We're going to take a quick break and listen to this word from our good friends at Window Nation.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, can help you fill the house this season with savings. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and make no payments and pay no interest until 2025. Fill your house for a customized authentic Dallas Cowboys jersey while supplies last. You could even help fill the Cowboys house and win tickets to a game. Visit windownation.com/Cowboys now for details. Call 866-95-NATION. Window Nation, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
I don't know about you, but after seeing that, all I want to do now is go buy windows. Thank you very much, Window Nation. All right, we're going to tackle one more.
Window Nation, their logo is a W. That means a lot of W's for the Cowboys this year.
Right. We're going to tackle a subject that that was a winner. I know that was a good one. That we have talked about ad nauseum here on Cowboys Overtime, which is, does Dak Prescott need to play in the preseason? He didn't last year because of his shoulder. The Cowboys keep running out Larry Moe and Curley as their quarterbacks. Ben DiNucci's apparently on the team as a favor to Mike McCarthy's buddy. Cooper Rush still has a job. All hail Cooper Rush. I love Cooper Rush because the fact that he's still in the NFL, it's amazing. You're saying the backup job is going to go to former West Virginia and Texas killer, the guy who did this, Will Grier. Apparently that's Tom Herman didn't like that. And it's going to be Will Grier. Do they need to see Dak play at all? I'm of a mind it wouldn't kill him to see him play a series. Do you think we'll even see him play a series in fake football?
Well, the only reason you want to see him play is for the fans who get to show up. But I don't think that a series makes a difference. What's the series going to show you? I mean, they used to do the third preseason game with the dress rehearsal for the season when they play the half, and you got to come out the second half and get all that stuff done. But as we saw last year, Dak was great against Tampa without having any preseason snaps. And they got a lot of stuff in camp, got a lot of stuff in practice. The thing about it is what they did during the scrimmages or the workouts, the starters, Dak Prescott starters took the majority of the reps. I mean, he got more reps against the Chargers and the Broncos in 3 practices than he did probably in the first 4 preseasons combined when he played.
Oh, wow.
Because usually you play the first preseason game, you may play a series. The next preseason game, you may play a quarter. That still may be 2 or 3 series. The next preseason game, you may play a half. But again, the reps he got, I mean, they got like 160 reps in the 2 practices against the Chargers. And you're going against a live defense. You're going against another team. You're going against different looks. So you're getting all that stuff without taking hits on the quarterback, of course. But you're getting all the looks that you need. What's the point of playing in the preseason? I think this is something a lot of teams that go through. You've seen other quarterbacks do it. I mean, what did Patrick Mahomes get from playing, a quarter in preseason?
Nothing. I've thought about that. I've weighed that out as preseason has changed dramatically in professional sports, not just in the NFL, hockey, the NBA, where it's interminably long, baseball, where, basically baseball, it's just a ton of money for the owners because the guys play a couple of at-bats and then they're on a bus back to their spring training complex to play golf the rest of the day. And football has basically turned into an extension of that. The only reason, like you said, is to give the fans who are paying regular season prices to watch a pretty bad practice and what essentially amounts to is a tryout for roster spots 46 through 53. Am I being too generous with that number? 46 through 53? Is it that big or is it smaller than that?
I mean, the good news is we don't even have to get into that, but the good news, like we were just talking to Mike McCarthy, what they've been able to do in the preseason was give all these reps to these young guys. Tyler Smith is taking a lot of reps. We talked about Jalen Tolbert. Those receivers are getting a lot of reps.
But Clarence, wait a minute. Hang on. They're taking a lot of reps, and that's good. But Clarence, these are 75% reps. The real reps are going to start in a couple of weeks in September.
But you have to. This is game conditions. These are game situations. You still have to do it under the lights. One thing that Tolbert did look good in practice, but under the lights, things have not looked good. You're getting different looks. We talked to him after the Denver game, and it's different going against the defense that you don't know what they're going to do and how they're going to react. So I mean, this is a team because they don't spend a lot of free agency. They're counting on young guys. Okay, so how they invest this team. These guys are getting a lot of reps. I mean, so again, the preseason is not a perfect situation for either way. For the starters, because you don't want to risk injury. Certainly for the fans, you don't want to watch guys who are not going to be on the team. But if you're going to get some benefit out of it, and that's what they're trying to make the best of the situation, let's see what these young guys got. Let's put them under fire, under lights, and let's see them play. And again, you still have to play out the competition for the backup quarterback spot. There's a good competition for the backup running back spot. I mean, those three running backs, they got a nice little running back a depth chart behind of Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott. I mean, those Malik Davis looks good. Okay, Rico Dowdell looks good. They're gonna need those guys during games this year because Tony Pollard's gonna do some receiver stuff. They're gonna need that third running back to sometimes take the load off of Zeke Elliott as a major part of this offense. So seeing those guys play, it's a good thing for the Cowboys.
All right, there he is. Rowdy shilling for the NFL and the Dallas Cowboys preseason. Man, I hope they give you a cut for that sales pitch to watch that garbage on Friday night. We're going to go to one more topic here that we have not talked about here on Cowboys Overtime for some time, and we need to do it because I have a feeling this guy's going to be a story throughout the season, and that is the status of the former genius that is offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore was personally hired by Jason Garrett, what feels like 15 years ago, and he was tapped as the NFL's next genius offensive mind because young genius offensive minds are only on offense. Babe Laufenberg taught me that. They're only offensive genius. They're no defensive geniuses. So Kellen Moore got tapped with that, and his play calling has either been praised as he is the next Sean McVay, or he's a damn idiot along the lines of Ron Earhart. That's an old school NFL name who bored the hell out of everybody. Clarence, Kellen Moore was given a spot on this coaching staff that Mike McCarthy inherited, and he kept him around. Not all coaches do that. I think Mike kept him because he liked him. By all accounts, Mike lets Kellen call the plays and run the offense to however he likes, with some exceptions, like any head coach. What's the status of Kellen Moore in 2022? Is this a guy who's coaching for his job?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that Dan Quinn is considered a genius. Okay,
that's right. That's what his boss said. That's right.
Dan Quinn is considered defense. He's the coach of the defense. Okay.
Okay.
McCarthy coaches the offense, coaches the football team, along with and he and Kellen Moore coach the offense. But I think it's one of those things where the hip bone is connected to the knee bone and all the other leg bone and all the other stuff. Certainly Kellen's under fire, but if Kellen can't do it, who's going to pay with his job? Mike McCarthy. Dan Quinn's going to be the head coach.
Hang on. Hear me out. If the season goes sideways, because I wrote about this and I have, my thoughts about Mike McCarthy's status. I don't think it's right, the fact that he's in this position coming off of a 12-win season and an NFC East title, host a playoff game, and now all of a sudden, he's worrying about his job. They're going to find a fall guy. If the Sean Payton thing doesn't really work out and they need to find somebody to justify keeping McCarthy for a fourth season, they're going to find a fall guy. And it's not going to be Dan Quinn. It's going to be Kellen Moore. You and I both know that. Because when I've talked to players, they've all told me the same thing. Now, it's been a while since I've been out there because of COVID. But I've heard from two guys who've been there for a long time. Kellen Moore runs that offense.
He does.
Mike's over it, but Kellen Moore, that's Kellen Moore's offense.
Well, he does run offense. My point is, though, when you say that, no, Dan Quinn won't be the fall guy. Dan Quinn won't be the next head coach is what I'm saying. If things don't, I think
you really think so, Clarence?
It's more likely Dan Quinn will be the next head coach over Sean Payton at this point. And I think that's, the real issue here. But again, that offense had problems down the stretch last year.
Amen.
That offense, it seemed like people, at least had an antidote or solved them, or as the former the former Broncos coach said, they had a blueprint out on them. And so right. That offense was not the same offense at the end of the season. Certainly wasn't the same offense in the playoffs. Now you lose Amari Cooper, you lose Cedric Wilson, the offensive line got questions, the receiver got questions. You're asking a lot for Kellen Moore and Dak Prescott to be better on offense. I don't think they will be better on offense.
Neither do I.
I don't think they will be better on offense. This right now, this team is a defensive-led football team. The best parts of this football team are on defense. The strongest positions on this football team are on defense. The biggest questions on this football team are on offense. And that's not even including whether Kellen Moore is the boy juniors everybody thought he was. But he's going to have to call plays and find a way to make this thing happen. If the Cowboys are successful this year with this offense, all these questions, Dak Prescott's going MVP.
All right. That's a good HSO. I like that. I still think they're going to the NFC East because the NFC East is trash. Speaking of trash, on Friday night, the Dallas Cowboys will host their final fake game of the season. I don't call it an exhibition. Their fake games are a waste of time, but Clarence likes it because it's a chance to watch the second and third string running backs run for 4.2 yards a rush. Clarence, this has been a lot of fun. For all of your Dallas Cowboys coverage needs, be sure to check us out on StarTelegram.com. And we do want to thank the good people at Window Nation for riding with us this week and every other week during the 2022 Cowboys season. Clarence, see you Friday night. Can't wait for fake football.
Malik Davis, keep it on there.